Hey, hey, welcome along, Infinite Beings. It's great to have you here on the Infinite Me, where every day we're reminding you that you're already infinite. You don't need to go out and find your powers. You don't need to ascend. You don't need to even awaken them. You've already got infinite powers right now, and you're having a direct experience of them every single day. So now it's time to actually see it all and play with it all. And that's what we're here and what we're about. So I'm Nat, and over there, did I get that right? Over there is Mandy.
Yeah. Hello.
And we're your infinite wing women. Wing women? Wingmates. Maybe wingmates. And we're supporting you to play in your infinite zone no matter what reality presents to you. And it can certainly present some things that don't look like infiniteness. So fasten your seatbelts as we fly into another episode of The Infinite Me. Now, yesterday we chatted about the projects and ideas and challenges that sometimes seem far bigger than you are and can all seem very overwhelming. And really, at the end of the day, we've made the point that nothing is actually bigger than you are. You are the creator of your reality. Everything that you see outside of you is actually your creation and a reflection purely of your consciousness. So nothing can actually be bigger than you are, your infinite self. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or that you're out of sync with things and you're feeling like things are bigger than you, you've got challenges that you're really working through, then do go and have a listen or a watch of that video because it was actually really cool. And I think it will definitely help.
Yep.
Very cool. So today we're going to discuss the concept. It's a pretty common concept that we talk about in consciousness, and you'll often hear a lot of spiritual people and consciousness people talk about, and that's ascending and descending. We've been sitting with it. We're not 100% sure that we buy into it anymore, that whole concept. And this is really just an open discussion about that. We don't have any great conclusions or answers, not that anyone really does have any answers to this whole thing. But we just wanted to have a talk about it and see whether it does actually feel right to still be using those sorts of concepts. Or are they all concepts that are now being superseded by, I guess, a more conscious, open view of infiniteness, and everything's got to be superseded at some point, I guess. And, I've always thought about consciousness stuff as layers, like brick layers, I guess. There's bricks in a wall that's being built, and a teacher or a guru or somebody will have a concept type thing that they teach, and then another one will, and another one will, and they're all sort of talking about the same thing, but in different languaging and all that sort of stuff. And then at some point, consciousness has to evolve, and we have another layer on top, and we sort of debunk a little bit of the stuff that's gone on underneath and gone, yeah, it doesn't really feel right anymore. It's one level of truth. I guess they're just levels of truth and not debunked as such. I'm not saying that they're wrong. They're just levels of truth. We're getting deeper and deeper into ourselves, and we're getting deeper and deeper views of consciousness as we go, as we all awaken on the journey. And so I guess they are levels of consciousness. So I guess this is just another possible level of consciousness, another brick in the wall on top that says, are the layers underneath even feel right anymore?
Yes.
So as far as ascending, I certainly do not buy into that anymore. I think the concept has been used a lot in terms of, you're in a human form type thing, and you have to awaken to your infinite powers and to who you are. And that's the sort of context it often gets used in, is that you are waking up to who you are.
Yes.
And while I think that's true to some degree, I also think the ego can get hold of that and sort of go, oh, I'm not awake yet, sort of thing. I don't know about that. Or I don't know, just doesn't sit with me overly anymore, that concept.
Yeah. I was just thinking, when the word ascension, I don't know the actual sort of roots of that word, but to me, it kind of brings back religious connotations, I guess, of like, God was always up there, sort of thing, and so you transcend, the human limitations, if you like, and then you can become enlightened. Well, probably not enlightened is probably not a word that got used in religion so much, but yeah, just that idea of ascending, like ascending to heaven and becoming godlike, coming back to that nature. And that was kind of the whole point of, you know, being here in this existence, was to return to that nature, if you like. But yes, I'm not sure in terms of ascension, you know, how it's very highly used, like concept, obviously, in spirituality and consciousness work. But like what Nat's saying, I've definitely been sitting with this for a good couple of weeks. I'd say this is really coming up, not specifically just ascension, just other spiritual kind of concepts that I've definitely been involved in or come across, or had some belief around as well, like over the years. But it's all kind of coming up at the moment for some like questioning. So it's kind of, I'm not quite sure, as Nat sort of said, I don't know exactly where I sit with it all at the moment, or what the answer is. And like I said, there isn't really an answer. It's just your own awareness of something. But it does feel like there is a deeper level to get to with it. And I guess from where we've been talking about and everything that we've been sharing about, this idea that we are an infinite energy that's animating this human form. So we are all part of the infinite oneness, one being, one consciousness, and we're all aspects of that here to play that out. Like we're writing our own story as we go. We're creating it here in this physical body. We get to play and interact with that, and we're all sort of different aspects of the one consciousness. So if you come from that angle, then like, what are you actually ascending to? Like, it's kind of, it doesn't actually kind of make sense, because you are the one energy that's animating everything. So when you come to know yourself as that, and you just start playing this human game, which we set up, like we're the ones that created it. And so ascension, I guess, just becomes a game you could play, if you want to put it into that language. But it doesn't feel like the absolute truth of it, because like if you're the one being, so then what are you actually ascending to? Like you're coming back to yourself. So it's kind of like, it doesn't
even logically, it doesn't make sense. Like when you put it that way. It's
like it's something around that's just not sitting. Something's just kind of up for me at the moment. I think Nat as well. Like we've been sort of chatting a little bit about this behind the scenes. It's just like, I don't know. There's another level of truth, I think, to it all. Yeah.
I think if you're talking about ascending, like a lot of people talk about ascending into enlightenment, it's like, well, I definitely don't buy into that, because I feel that everybody's enlightened already. You've got everything available to you in a moment, if that's what you want. So
we've just forgotten who we are truly at the
you've forgotten parts of yourself, or you're not using it. Maybe you just we're simply not using parts of our infinite self. Like even the brain, like how much do we use of our brain power? Like 3% or something. Like even that, I mean, the mind itself is actually connected to the infiniteness in the first place. That's where it comes from. So that, even to use more of your mind and expand sort of thing, you know, people like Einstein and the different amazing people that we've had in our space over the, you know, the course of history type thing, have used more brain power. And, you know, Einstein was very much about using the infiniteness and consciousness and stuff like that. So he was actually quite awakened to all of this sort of stuff we're talking about right now. He very much was tuned in, and so is so many of the inventors and stuff. You know, they would sit in darkened rooms. You know, I think Edison, was it, that created electricity? Didn't create it. He discovered electricity. Sat in a darkened room for like months, just sitting there in the quiet, dark room, waiting for inspiration to hit, sort of thing. Like they didn't, you know, he was definitely trying different things and stuff. But so there's like people over the course of history that have changed the course of history, that have basically tuned in. They knew that they had to tune in to the infinite creativity. They didn't have the answers themselves. They would go and try stuff from the ideas that came. So I guess it's like, are we becoming more enlightened? I don't really buy into that anymore. I don't see that everybody has the ability to tune in at any moment. Everyone could go and sit in a darkened room, if that's what it takes, to tune in to what feels true. And I think more and more we're becoming more able to do that, because I think we're also giving each other permission these days, and hopefully this is part of that permission. You know, doing this particular talks each day is your permission to go and do this stuff, like to tap into the infinite. It's already there. So I think the other thing too is with the whole ascension and descension as well, is that there's some sort of sense of separation. So
Mm.
heaven is there somewhere, and we're down here on planet Earth. Somehow there's this big separation going on,
Yes.
and I guess that's why we feel almost alone at times. Is that we're not connected back to that source or heaven type thing, but we're trying to
Yeah.
get there. There's this sense of like we have to get back to that.
Yes.
Even the whole Jesus, the story of Jesus, like rising from the dead and ascending back into heaven, as if heaven isn't actually already here.
Yes.
And that I definitely don't agree with, because heaven definitely is here if you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that entirely goes on your attitude towards everything and how you're going to approach your life. You can certainly feel a sense of heaven on earth here right now, if that's what you want.
Yeah.
So I'm not really buying into the story, certainly not of ascension. Descension, again, I still think that there's a bit of that sense of separation, that you've come from the infinite and you're coming down to a human form sort of thing, and that you don't bring with you those things. At the end of the day, like, I really feel that the human form just is, like everything that we see in reality, is just a vibration of energy that is vibrating at such a level, whether it's a slower level than energy that you can't see. So
Mm.
if it's a lower
Yeah. It's a
vibrational energy,
denser.
a denser form,
Mm.
that it actually looks as if stuff is real. It looks as if the table's solid. It's not
Yes.
really at all. Like, in neither are your hands or any part of your body type thing. And it's sort of like it's just resonating at a level that seems like it actually is here,
Mm.
and that we can see it with our eyes. So it's like, is there anything going on at all? Maybe not. Like, maybe there is no ascension, descension. It's just like there's just different levels of vibration happening. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, nothing more is happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where I'm kind of sitting more these days, is kind of, science is showing us that the only reason we see physical form, like what you're just saying, is because we observe something and it collapses into the wave energy,
Mm,
collapses into form, because it is denser and it slows down. And then we, the way that our human body has been designed, we
mm,
get to see that physical form and we think it's real. So then we, that's when reality gets created, I suppose, because then we start to think, oh, this is real and I can interact with that thing, and we expect it to be there. So therefore we keep seeing it, and it
yeah.
keeps showing up like that every day. With all these laws that we've come up with that sort of govern how our universe works, and gravity and all these different sort
Mm,
of concepts. So it's not that they're essentially not true on some level. I think it feels to me like they are true in the human game,
mm,
like the human reality. That
yeah.
is, we do live in a 3D world, so we do have these things that we interact with, and the different laws and the different um, like theories that scientists have come up with over the years, and like we get to interact with those, and they sort of do govern us to some degree, like our experience here. But then, who created all that at the end of the day? That's the question that I guess I
Yeah.
keep coming back to. Is just like, what created all of that? So if there is some one overriding infinite consciousness that is so super creative that it could come up with all of this concept of like the human game, and we're all here to be aspects of that, and we get to play out, I don't know, there's something about that aspect of being a game, like I really
Mm,
resonate with that, about we've created this to come here and experience ourselves in a human finite body, a limited
mm,
well, we've told ourselves we're limited, so I guess the story is to the goal, if you like, is to rediscover that unlimited nature of who you truly are, to come back home to that. So if there was going to be anything, like, I don't feel like that's ascension. It's just more a remembrance of who you are, almost like playing a game of hide and seek or something. It feels a bit like that. It just feels like a
yeah.
finding yourself again, and then going, oh, okay, well, found myself now. So the limitations kind of start to fall away, but then you can actually just start playing with that. Like, and so that to me feels a bit more true, that all the other stuff is just things we can actually interact with. So things like
Mm,
astrology, your star sign, and does that energy affect you? Is like, okay, it can do if you
buy
want to
into it.
play that game, and like and live that way too. So a lot of people say, oh, I tune into energy and they could feel things. It's like that. Not saying any of that is not true.
Not
I
true.
think that's just a particular game that we could come here to play and experience and to learn and interact with, if that's what we want to
I do agree with
do.
that.
Yeah, because then you get some people that just don't feel energy at all. So it's kind of like, well,
are they less of a person? Yeah, like
yeah,
are they
they just
less spiritual, less conscious? Like, is that why they can't tune in, type thing, or is it just not their game here? Like they're off doing something else.
That's the thing I sort of questioning and sitting with, I suppose, is like that. There's something around. There is a lot of judgment, I suppose, is the best word for it in the spiritual world, around who's more tapped in than the other person, and I can see this, and
there's probably
I can't
more
see
judgment in the conscious world than there is outside the conscious world.
I think there's a lot of repression. A lot of repression goes on in the spiritual world, because you sort of fall into this thing of like, oh, I've got to be positive all the time, and I've got to be I can't explore the dark side. Yeah, I can't look at the dark side of anything, because that would be giving it permission to be in my life or inviting it in, or there's all these different concepts that people sort of go into. But like, I guess at its core level, like spirituality or religion or science, even if you like, they're all kind of pointing at the same thing, that we are an infinite, we all are part of God, if you want to use that word without it having a religious overtone, but like just that idea that there is one overriding kind of consciousness that's running the show, if you like, that designed it all, that's has the infinite creativity to come up with all of this. Then if you sort of tap into that, it's just like, well, that feels true to me. But then all the other stuff can be then taken by the ego, like, as the ego is a creation too of consciousness. When we come into the finite world, it's existed. So the ego can get a hold of all those concepts and then make it feel like it's true, and we need to do all these things, and we need to give our power away to religion, because otherwise we're not going to get into heaven, or we need to become enlightened, otherwise we're going to come back in another lifetime and have to go through karma again, or whatever the different belief systems go on that people do buy into it. A lot of the time they do let it run them, because the ego gets a hold of it. So it isn't a game anymore that you can just play with. It actually becomes like, oh, this is how I need to live my life. And yes, I don't know. There's a lot of questions around all of that, I think. So I'm not sure if any of that made sense, what I just said, but it kind of just feels like
makes total sense. Like, or it does to me. I don't know about anyone else watching. But, no, I totally agree. It's like, the more we talk about it now, it sort of seems like there's just so many different infinite expressions and so many different ways you can play this game. And it's like, none are better than the other. They're just, how do you want to play it? Like, before, 15 years ago, back in 2004, I knew nothing about all this stuff. Like, it was not part of my reality, any of this conversation. These concepts, like, I remember my ex-husband sort of wanting to talk to me about some of this stuff, and I was so off the radar of it. I was just like, I just look at him as if to say he was from another planet. And I was just like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't have an interest in it. Until we split up, suddenly I had an interest in it, because it became important to me. So my whole world shifted into this space. So it's sort of quite interesting, is that before that, was I totally unconscious? Was I in ego, not in ego type thing? It's like I was just living my life. Like, I just wasn't even thinking about any of this stuff. I hadn't heard about, I mean, I probably heard about the ego, but I would have thought that the ego was purely like somebody pumping themselves up type thing, like becoming, proud, way too proud type thing about something. And that's all it meant to me. So then I chose to play this game because it suddenly started resonating. I don't feel like it was a better game. Sometimes I think back and think, God, ignorance was bliss. This stuff. I feel just as twisted right now as I did back then. So it's like, so thinking, like, pondering about it now as we're talking, it's like, if you want to play the energy game, or there's guides, or there's angels, or there's crystals and all that sort of stuff. 100%, that's true for you. Like, but it may not be true for everybody, and it doesn't make you better or worse than anyone else. It's just another way to play the game. Like, with you can just choose whichever way you want to play the game. I guess that's the whole point of this entire thing that we're talking about, is like, play it whichever way you bloody well like. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if that's what floats your boat right now, awesome.
Yeah. But I think there is that key word that you said, but is choice, because choosing to play the game, because when you do feel like it, you need to play that game, because otherwise you can't get to wherever you think you've got to get to, or you need that to be your, which I think we've definitely talked about in a previous episode, where we were talking all about this concept that people rely on a particular type of method or guidance system or something, as if like that exists outside of them and they can't get their answers from anywhere else, because that's essentially saying you are a limited being and you need to rely on something outside of you to direct you in this lifetime, otherwise you're lost, kind of thing. So I think it is just that there is a choice that you can play that game, but knowing full well that you are an infinite being and you're choosing, you can use that to get your guidance, say, but you know that it is actually you at the end of the day. It's not like a power outside of you, and that you're a lost little human here that needs, pointing in the, I don't know, to achieve whatever you think you're here to achieve, sort of thing. Like, I think there's a difference in those two viewpoints. Yeah, how you.
And I think that you're right in saying that a lot of that can become that you're trying to get to somewhere. Trying to get to enlightenment. You're trying to become more spiritual, more awakened, less negative. Like you're sort of trying to either move towards something or away from something the whole time, instead of just being where you are right now. Going right now is actually pretty awesome. Like if I choose it to be, and I'm just doing whatever I feel like doing in every moment. This is fun for me right now. Next week, it's not fun to do that same thing. Like, I do something else. So it's sort of this just very flowing ability to just move between everything that's available for you here to play with, and not being attached to any of it, and not putting your power into any of it. Like, I guess that's the whole point of this, is not putting your power into any modality, system, religion, anything like that. It's just, if you want to go and play that game of being Muslim or being a Catholic or whatever, great, go and play that game. Like, that's awesome. That's what really feels right and true for you. But don't lose yourself in it. Your sense of who, like the truth of who you are, don't lose yourself in those things.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people do that, go on that journey. They go through religion and then they might leave a religion to go and explore life. And then some people might come back to it, but they definitely come back to it in a different space, I find. Like, they definitely don't see it as like outside of them anymore. Well, maybe some people might, but there's definitely people that then come back to it as knowing that, no, this just resonates because there's something about it that feels true. And I like maybe the way this information gets delivered to me. So I'm choosing to sort of tap
that community or the
a lot of people.
Yeah,
you get a lot of other aspects that come with being part of a church or and there's a lot of non-denominational type communities that are popping up these days as well. So a lot of people tap into that type of thing because it is, like what you said, it is just a sense of community sometimes and a shared common value in life that you maybe you feel like there's something bigger than you and you're tapping into that energy. So that's a lot of time why people do come back into religion. But but I think there is that difference between getting lost in something and making it outside of you and putting your power into it, thinking you have to get to somewhere, versus it being just something, another thing you could play with, just like you choose whether to play the guitar or you choose to play the piano. Like, it's just another thing that you could play with, sort of thing, and learn how to play with it and interact with it and be an energy healer if that feels really true to you. And it's not to say that you're not actually doing something in reality with it, but it's when you feel like, oh, that power is coming from you, or you're the one that's creating it, or you've got to tap in to get to that. And it's like, that's when it starts to kind of take you over a little bit, I guess.
Or somebody else has the power, like, and I guess probably traditionally a lot of religions have become like that. I know the Catholic religion particularly has become like that over the years, many centuries of propaganda, I guess, to some degree, sort of saying that the priest has all the answers.
Yes.
And they're behind the cloth type thing. And you, as part of the congregation, don't get to have that power as well. Like, you don't get to tap in like they do almost. It's
Yeah.
almost kind of saying that they're the channel.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can't be the channel because you're sort of still unworthy or unwashed or whatever it is. I'm not worthy to receive you.
Yes.
But yeah, so I guess that's the part I really do reject in terms of, well, I can only talk about cafe religion because it's the only one I know. That I definitely reject, because it's just like, that to me has just been propaganda over the years to, I don't know, either control people or,
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, definitely.
forward their own movement.
Yes.
So they are a business at the end of the day, and they're doing very well for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, to me, that's the sort of stuff I love pushing back on now. It's just like, it's just such bollocks. Like, it really is. You know, and I'm not saying don't be Catholic if it feels true for you, but don't be giving your power away to priests and other hierarchy that sort of are making out as if they've got some answer that you don't.
Yes. Yeah, that's a key point, I think. Yeah.
Use it to connect directly with your infinite source and with God.
As a reminder, yeah.
Just allow it to be a reminder for who you are.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm sure you can hear the crazy dogs in the background.
I can hear the crazy dogs.
Being a bit annoying. I might have to move.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not buying into the stories anymore. I really like, from this conversation even more so, of the whole, particularly ascension and descension thing. I just don't think I agree with it anymore.
Yes.
Feeling like, yep, you're an infinite energy. Just because something here seems real, it's actually not. Maybe nothing's actually happened. Maybe we haven't left consciousness at all. Like, we're still sitting in the big chair in the sky type thing. Like, and all of it's just rolling out in front of us, and we think that we're interacting with it all. I don't know.
Yeah.
We could still just be there. I do like the concept of the unmoving mover, which I don't know if Einstein. I don't know, wasn't that? It was.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. We were trying to work out.
I'll have to look it up again of who actually came up with that concept. But I love that concept. Like, to me, that's 100% sums up what I feel we're talking about.
That's true. Actually.
Is the unmoving mover. So you sit at the center as the one, and everything, all of reality moves around you constantly type thing. So, and if you're really centered and present, and you know, in meditation or something like that, you'll feel that. You'll actually have a sense of that for sure, or you're witnessing something where you've actually stepped outside of the body and everything's sort of happening in front of you, and you're going, oh my God, I'm actually doing these things, but it's not really me. That's really bizarre. It is that sense of the unmoving mover, is that you are the creator of everything, and everything does move around you, but you never move. You are that center, core oneness that is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so too. That feels the most true for me at the end of the day, and that everything else is just a version of that, if you like, of how to access that knowledge or something, if you like, just a different game you could play based on your own personal interests and skills and what you came here to express in this lifetime as part of the infinite oneness wanted to experience all aspects of itself. So it is just another way to play with it all. That's what that feels the most true to me. So where all the other stuff fits in, I don't know, not 100% sure, but it kind of feels like what we just spoke about today is kind of the essence of it. It's just like, well, you can choose to play it however you want to play it, but you're all one energy at the end of the day anyway. So there is nowhere to get, nowhere to be. Like, it's all here in the present moment. It doesn't exist outside this present moment. So is it all just a figment of infinite being's imagination? Like, that's what it could be. Just over in a slip of a second. Like, it's kind of
sort of what it feels like, doesn't it? That's sort of like, it's still just part of the imagination and part of a game you can play here. You know, like, okay, we talk about Atlantis, or we talk about this rock having amazing energy, or these people from the past that have now here and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, they're all just stories that had to come from somewhere. Someone
Yeah.
wrote that story at some stage.
Yeah.
Whether they were feeling the energy of that and they wrote it, or they feel like they saw it. I don't know.
Yes.
It's sort of like, it's a cool story, definitely, but that's what it feels like. It feels like a story because there is no history at the end of the day. There's just memories. Did they even happen? Like, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even yesterday, did that even happen? Like, who
Yeah.
knows? Like, it's all you've got left is a memory of it. Is that memory even correct about what happened?
Yeah. And you can only have the memory in the present moment. So it's like, well, how do you know that happened? If there is only now and everything happens in the now, then like we said, did it happen like we think it happened, or is it just another thought that comes through our mind? Yeah.
Yeah, particularly if you and I can have the same experience yesterday, and then we both account what happened yesterday. We'll have totally different viewpoints probably of what happened.
Yes.
It's like it's all just opinion at the end of the day, and based on our values and what we're interested in. So it's like, can history even be true? Like, is it almost impossible for history to be a true account of actually what did happen?
Yes.
It has to be based on opinions at some point. So it's like, yeah, okay, people do sort of go off and talk about different things, Atlantis, and like I was saying, like all these different sort of myths and legends and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, who knows whether they happened? But it actually doesn't matter. It's just like, how are you interacting with it right now, sort of thing, and how do you enjoy yourself enjoy your game using those stories right now, and participating in those stories. If that feels true for you and it feels exciting, awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. All right. Well, I'll let you go. Mandy's got to run to go and get a plane. You're off to Sydney.
Yep.
You're going to have a different reality when you wake up tomorrow morning.
Yep. Very true. Lots of family catch-ups. So.
Yes. Yep. That'd be fun.
Yep. The next time we speak, I'll be somewhere else. I don't know. I'll be at my brother's apartment. So yeah.
Yes.
Or our brother's apartment.
Our brother's apartment. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Excellent.
Cool place.
Well,
all righty.
Thanks for joining us today, and let us know if this sparked anything for you. Like, it could be, as that we don't have the answers to this, is something we're kind of sitting with ourselves, and it's coming up a lot at the moment. So it's it'd be interesting to see how this lands for anybody else. If you've got any similar thoughts or completely different thoughts, or share what's going on in the comments.
Yeah, definitely do that. Yeah, I'd love to hear people's thought processes around what we've just talked about and what feels true for you.
Yes.
It's going to feel true different for everybody. So
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right.
Okay. Stay infinite.
Bye.
Bye.